In recent days, Chongqing, located in the upstream region of the Three Gorges, has been repeatedly hit by torrential rain. The heavy rainfall has caused a rapid rise in river water levels, posing a risk of embankment breaches. The downpour has also triggered flash floods, landslides, and mudslides, resulting in severe damage to local houses. Among the affected areas, Wanzhou District has been hit the hardest. Wanzhou District in Chongqing is situated within the Three Gorges Reservoir area. One of the excuses behind the CCP's construction of the Three Gorges Dam was to mitigate the disasters caused by torrential rain in this area. However, the dam has not only failed to fulfill its role in disaster mitigation, but has exacerbated the impact of the heavy rainfall. On the morning of July 14th, the Chongqing Meteorological Bureau reported that there were heavy rainfalls at 108 rain gauge stations and torrential rain at 395 stations. Longbao Station in Wanzhou District recorded the highest rainfall, reaching 290 millimeters. In response, Wanzhou District decided to upgrade its flood prevention response to Level 2 emergency, initiating measures such as work and school suspension to combat the flood. Videos shared by netizens depict torrents of water flowing down streets and submerging houses as a result of the heavy rain. Many vehicles were swept away and submerged in the floodwaters. According to Xinhua News Agency, over 2,600 residents were evacuated in the early hours of July 14th. On the 14th, official media outlet The Paper published an article stating that the Yangtze River Maritime Affairs Bureau released information indicating that, based on reports from disaster prevention and control departments in Chongqing City and Hubei Province, a total of 202 potential geohazard points affecting the safety of Yangtze River navigation were identified in the Three Gorges Reservoir area. These hazards primarily include dangerous rock masses, landslides, reservoir banks deterioration, and collapsing slide masses. In just 12 days, Wanzhou District has experienced its second flooding event. Chongqing was also hit by heavy rainfall on the 3rd and 4th of this month, with Changtan Town in Wanzhou District receiving the heaviest rainfall recorded since 1956. According to reports from Chinese media, the disasters caused by landslides and other hazards triggered by the heavy rain have resulted in 17 deaths, 2 missing, and over 200 million yuan damages. Authorities expressed concerns that natural disasters this month may worsen due to extreme weather conditions. Dr. Wang Weiluo, a renowned expert in environmental ecology and hydraulic engineering, recently stated in an interview that the flood disaster in Wanzhou District can be considered a man-made catastrophe. This is because Wanzhou District is part of China's Three Gorges Reservoir area, and the flooding in the reservoir area is directly linked to the existence of the Three Gorges Dam. The impoundment of the Three Gorges Dam has caused the water level of the Yangtze River to rise. As a result, the current river water level in Wanzhou District is 80 to 143 meters higher than the historical levels before the construction of the dam. This has undoubtedly affected the stability of the reservoir banks. Especially during the flood season when there are fluctuations in water level regulation, the underground water conditions of the reservoir banks can rapidly change, making landslides more likely to occur. In other words, the water impoundment of the Three Gorges Dam has altered the natural conditions of the area, and such changes increase the likelihood of natural disasters like landslides occurring. Furthermore, due to urban development and real estate expansion, there is a competition for land with rivers, resulting in the construction of numerous waterside properties that significantly narrow the river channels. This leaves very little space for the water to flow, leading to immediate flooding during heavy rainfall. Dr. Wang Weiluo believes that continuing on this path will lead to significant problems. Since the construction of the Three Gorges project, the Chinese Communist Party has heavily suppressed any criticism or doubts regarding the project. The open report by The Paper on July 14th regarding geohazards in the Three Gorges Reservoir area indicates that the situation is extremely severe. After the impoundment of the Three Gorges Dam in June 2003, the Three Gorges Reservoir was formed upstream of the dam. The reservoir stretches approximately 600 kilometers in length, reaches a width of up to 2 kilometers, and covers an area of 10,000 square kilometers, submerging 129 towns. Since the impoundment, the Three Gorges Dam has caused numerous geohazards in a vast area along the Yangtze River and its tributaries, spanning from Chongqing to Yichang. In the first 11 months after the impoundment, there were a total of 4,688 collapses and landslides in the entire reservoir area. This was nearly double the 2,490 recorded in the entire year of 2001, within a span of just 2 years. One notable incident was the Qianjiangping village landslide, which serves as a representative example. On July 13, 2003, which was the 43rd day after the initial impoundment of the Three Gorges Reservoir to a water level of 135 meters, a sudden landslide occurred in Qianjiangping village, Shazhenxi town, Zigui County of Hubei province. Within 5 minutes, the landslide involved a mass of over 15 million cubic meters, which blocked off the Yangtze River, a wide tributary of the Yangtze River, and created waves of over 20 meters high. The location of the landslide was approximately 41 kilometers away from the dam. Reports indicate that the landslide resulted in 15 fatalities, 9 missing, the destruction of 129 houses and 4 factories, leaving 1,200 people homeless. The primary causes of the Qianjiangping landslide were heavy rainfall and the impoundment of the Three Gorges Reservoir. The original elevation of the Yangtze River water level before the first impoundment was approximately 95 meters. After the Three Gorges Reservoir impounds water to a level of 135 meters, the water level increased by about 40 meters. The material at the front edge of the landslide was subjected to immersion and erosion by the reservoir water, resulting in a decrease in strength. Particularly, the mechanical properties of the soft rock in the lower part of the slope deteriorated, disrupting the stress balance of the slope and leading to instability and the occurrence of the landslide disaster. Fan Xiao, chief engineer of the Regional Geological Survey Team of the Sichuan Geological and Mineral Bureau, has witnessed the occurrence of large-scale landslides multiple times in the Three Gorges Reservoir area. He told reporters that every time the Three Gorges Reservoir is filled, there is a high occurrence period of geological hazards, which typically happens from September to November when the water level begins to rise, and from February to May the following year when water is discharged from the reservoir. The most prominent example was in 2008, when the Three Gorges Dam attempted to reach the 175-meter water level. The Chongqing Geological Environmental Monitoring Station recorded over 100 newly occurring geological hazards that year, not including existing hazard points, said Fan Xiao. However, the dam only managed to reach a water level of 172 meters, falling short of 175. 175 meters is the normal reservoir water level designed for the Three Gorges project, and is based on data derived from assessments conducted by the so-called experts. If the reservoir water level reached 175, it would have a capacity of 39.3 billion cubic meters, transforming it into a river-like reservoir capable of generating maximum power. The backflow would extend beyond Chongqing's Chaotianmen Pier, improving navigation conditions upstream for over 600 kilometers from Yichang. However, after reaching the 175-meter water level, there would be significant fluctuations in the water level of the Yangtze River, which would undoubtedly affect the stability of the reservoir banks and introduce collapses along the river. Especially during the flood season, when there are adjustments in the reservoir water level, a drop of about 30 meters would occur, accompanied by rapid changes in the underground water conditions of the reservoir banks, making landslides more likely to occur. After conducting investigations commissioned by the Land and Resources Department of Chongqing, it was found that there are over 5,000 geological hazard sites in the reservoir area of the Chongqing section. With limited resources and funding, local governments can only focus on managing the larger hazard sites, leaving others unattended, stated Fan Xiao. According to Qianjiangping, chief scientist at the Geological Hazard Technical Guidance Center of the Ministry of Natural Resources of China, as of May 25, 2022, a total of 7,400 geological hazard points had been identified in the Three Gorges Reservoir area. In a report in 2010, Tan Chi-wei, former deputy mayor of Chongqing, stated that there were over 10,000 danger potential collapse and landslide points in the reservoir area of Chongqing section. Based on this, Wang Weiluo inferred that this number is likely to increase in the future, with the accumulation of more geological hazard points over time, exacerbating the severity of the problem. Before the construction of the Three Gorges project, many experts participated in the feasibility study. Why didn't they raise the issue of geological hazards in the reservoir area? This is related to the historical context at that time. In 1958, the Central Committee of the CCP approved the construction of the Three Gorges project, but due to economic policy mistakes, the plan was shelved. In 1984, the CCP State Council gave preliminary approval for the project to proceed, and in 1986, the CCP Central Committee and State Council proposed conducting a feasibility study for the project. Prior to the CCP's decision to construct the Three Gorges project, there were many people who opposed it. One of the reasons was the complex geological conditions in the reservoir area, which had a large number of potential landslides and collapses. They argued that the impoundment of the reservoir would weaken the stability of the reservoir banks and reactivate old landslides. The occurrence of heavy rain, reservoir-induced seismic activity, and large-scale landslides and rockfalls simultaneously would pose a significant threat to the ecological environment and the safety of residents' lives and properties in the reservoir area. Many of these opinions were included in the book The Yangtze River, edited by Dai Qing, and published at the end of February 1989. Under the pressure of dissenting voices, Vice Premier Yao Yilin, a member of the CCP Central Committee, announced to domestic and foreign journalists on April 3, 1989, just 2 months before the Tiananmen Square massacre, that the Three Gorges project would not proceed within the next 5 years, and that there was no need to spend significant efforts debating it. Following the Tiananmen massacre, the book The Yangtze River was seen as preparing public opinion for turmoil and riots, and suffered the fate of being removed from shelves, burned, and turned into pulp. Opponents of the Three Gorges project also faced political censorship and persecution, rendering them unable to voice their opinions in public. However, just over a month after the Tiananmen Square massacre, Jiang Zemin violated the commitment made by the CCP Central Committee and the State Council more than 3 months earlier, which was not to discuss the Three Gorges project within 5 years. During his first domestic inspection tour, Jiang Zemin visited the site of the Three Gorges Dam and publicly expressed support for its construction. In 1990, during a report on the feasibility study of the Three Gorges project to the State Council, Pan Jiazheng, the technical leader of the project's feasibility study group, falsely acclaimed that the reservoir banks of the Three Gorges project mainly consisted of hard to moderately hard rock and had overall good stability conditions. He reported that there were approximately 140 large and medium-sized collapses and landslides, with 14 of them being in relatively poor stability conditions, all located more than 26 kilometers away from the dam site. Please remember these two numbers, approximately 140 large and medium-sized collapses and landslides, with 14 of them being in relatively poor stability conditions. On March 21, 1992, Vice Premier Zhou Jiahua further stated during his explanation of the Three Gorges project to the National People's Congress representatives that the expert group believes that there were no significant problems of leakage or serious erosion of the banks, and that the overall stability of the reservoir banks was good. He mentioned that a few large-scale potentially unstable collapses and landslides were located more than 26 kilometers away from the dam site, and would not affect the operation of the project or the safety of the dam. Zhou Jiahua omitted the two mentioned numbers before. On April 3, 1992, the National People's Congress approved the construction of the Three Gorges project. The geological conditions in the Three Gorges Reservoir area are complex, and it's located in a subtropical climatic region with frequent heavy rainfall. Geological disasters in this area are characterized by a high density, large coverage, strong suddenness, and significant hazards, making it one of the most severely affected regions in China by geological disasters. This objective fact was undeniable by the feasibility study leadership group of the Three Gorges project, and was well known to the leaders of the CCP Central Committee and State Council. In order to achieve the political objective of starting the Three Gorges project as soon as possible, the feasibility study group and many scientific and technical personnel involved in the study deceived the Chinese people. In 1990, Pan Jiazheng's evaluation of the reservoir banks in the Three Gorges area was primarily based on the work of Professor Liu Guangrun from Huazhong University of Science and Technology. Liu Guangrun served as a member of both the Geological and Seismic Group and the Ecological Environment Group in the feasibility study. He also led the expert group for the research project on major geological and seismic issues of the Three Gorges project, under the Chinese Research on Key Scientific and Technological Issues of the Three Gorges project. Technically speaking, Liu Guangrun bore the primary responsibility for studying the significant geological and seismic issues in the reservoir area. Many pro-Three Gorges project experts who studied in the Soviet Union were appointed as academicians of the Chinese Academy of Sciences or the Chinese Academy of Engineering. Liu Guangrun was one of them. In 1999, he became an academician of the Chinese Academy of Engineering and enjoyed the treatment equivalent to a vice ministerial level. On June 1, 2003, the Three Gorges Reservoir began operation as it reached an elevation of 135 meters during the initial stage of reservoir impoundment. For Liu Guangrun, after the successful reservoir filling according to the plan and his own appointment as an academician, it was safe enough to change his evaluation of the stability of the reservoir banks. On June 13, 2003, Liu Guangrun told a reporter from Science Times that there were a total of 2,490 landslides and collapses in the Three Gorges Reservoir area, of which 581 needed to be addressed at the water level of 135 meters. He seemed to have forgotten his previous statement in 1990 regarding the approximately 140 collapses and landslides, of which 14 had poor stability. An important factor leading to frequent geological disasters in the Three Gorges Reservoir area is the deterioration of the reservoir banks. The total length of the reservoir banks in the Three Gorges Reservoir is 5,464 kilometers. The implementation of the so-called clearing and flushing operation plan in the reservoir results in annual water level fluctuations between elevations of 145 and 175 meters, creating a water level drawdown zone between the two. During the cyclic rise and fall of the reservoir water level, the rock and soil in the 30-meter drawdown zone experience a state of alternating wetting and drying, which causes deterioration damage to the rock masses and soil. Due to the development of joint fractures in the karst banks of the reservoir, combined with the periodic water level changes, the active interaction between the reservoir water and groundwater and the rock masses in terms of wet-dry and emergent drying accelerates the deformation and deterioration process of the reservoir banks, thereby triggering landslides and collapses. This poses a significant threat to the ecological environment and the safety of residents' lives and properties in the reservoir area. In response to the serious problems caused by the deterioration of the rock masses, geological engineers have suggested taking immediate engineering measures to reinforce the bottom and top of the deteriorated rock masses using steel rods, steel cables, and cement. If measures are taken early, the cost of the remediation project is estimated to be around 5 million yuan per 100 meters. If the remediation is delayed, the cost will be around 10 million per 100 meters. If left untreated, it could lead to catastrophic events such as river blockage, resulting in even greater losses. Up to now, the exact amount of capital invested in geological disaster prevention and control in the reservoir area has not been accurately disclosed. According to reports, by 2003, before the start of reservoir impoundment, an investment of 17 billion yuan had already been made. In May 2011, the State Council approved the Three Gorges Follow-up Work Plan, with one of its objectives being more effective management of geological disasters related to the Three Gorges project. According to media reports, the total investment of the follow-up work plan amounted to a staggering 123.8 billion yuan. As per the provisions of this plan, the general public continued to contribute to the Three Gorges Construction Fund for the follow-up work, albeit under a different name, the National Major Water Conservancy Project Construction Fund. Originally, the collection of the fund was supposed to end on December 31st, 2019. However, based on a suggestion by a member of the National People's Congress, the collection of this fund was extended until 2025. In 2023, another member of the National People's Congress proposed yet another extension of the fund collection to support the follow-up work of the Three Gorges project. Many people question why these academicians and experts did not disclose the truth to the general public before the construction of the Three Gorges project. Honestly speaking, if Liu Guangrun revealed that there are 2,490 instances of landslides and collapses in the reservoir area, can the project still be implemented? If these experts had spoken the truth before the start of the project, it would have been rejected, and they would not have become academicians and obtained fame and fortune. The so-called experts under the rule of the CCP often act in accordance with the authorities' interests, using their expert status and reputation to deceive the people while maximizing their own benefits. In other words, they are tools nurtured by the CCP for maintaining control. Without a moral bottom line, true experts cease to exist in China.